I don't think that I could be where I'm at or have the success or work on the caliber of shows that I work on without knowing Media Composer. I'm Angel Gamboa Bryant, and I am 2-time Emmy nominated for The Upshaws, Ain't Broke, and Automotive. The thing I love about working on The Upshaws is that it's a very family-oriented sitcom. I feel like it's very relatable. For me, I grew up in the Midwest in the 80s and 90s, and everything I watched, it was like my entire childhood were multi-camera sitcoms. So it feels really nice to be working on something that's nostalgic and that I feel like I know like the back of my head, and I get to laugh every day. We chose to submit 2 episodes of The Upshaws for the Emmys, and the reason why we chose them is because they're very well written. The multi-camera sitcom is all about comedy and also heartfelt storylines that are very family-oriented. Both of these episodes, Ain't Broke and Automotives, are great examples of a multi-camera sitcom and what I feel like draws people to watch them. They're very funny, very well written. The actors have extremely incredible performances. It's well directed. They're just well-rounded multi-camera sitcom episodes. I had been anticipating the Emmy nominations this time because I had been nominated last year and I had completely forgotten about it. And so the way I found out that time was I got bombarded by text messages from people. This time I wanted to be the first person to know. So I basically logged onto the Academy website and sat there in front of it and watched all of the announcements until they released the PDF so I could see. And I was with my 5-year-old son sitting at the table getting ready to take him to school when I got to the multi-camera category and then saw that I had 2 nominations, and I just started screaming. And my son was like, "What's happening?" You know, he's only 5, so he kind of didn't fully understand. But once he saw how excited I was, he started saying congratulations. And then pretty quickly after, that's when I started getting the text messages again. Usually it's my good old friend Molly Shock who texts me first with all kinds of enthusiasm and excitement. And then the cast and the crew and everybody from the Upshaws, the phone calls, text messages, emails started flooding in. It was surreal. It was very surreal. I couldn't believe that it was happening. The biggest challenge in cutting the episode of The Upshaws Automotives was that there's a different sort of character arc in this. There's a car that kind of comes in as a character in addition to the rest of the storylines. And so trying to artfully weave this car through the scenes and kind of make all the comedy land really well was challenging. And the other thing is we had more VFX in this episode than usual because we had the car, which is not typical for a multi-camera sitcom. So I had to kind of learn some new things. In the final scene, the car goes crashing through a building while the characters are there. And so it took different levels of split screens and VFX to sort of create that scene. The way I had to balance the storyline between the characters in this car made it a little more challenging than normal. In the episode Automotives, in order to sort of bring this character of the car to life throughout the episode, I had to use different tricks than I normally do in a multi-camera sitcom. So whether it was adding layers of sound effects or using special visual effects, which were mostly split screens, animats, I had to do a lot of keying with blue screens, green screens. Those were the biggest tools I had to use in Avid to create that. Multi-camera sitcoms are different than any other format in that they are created to be, it's a play in front of a live studio audience. In order for us to basically to achieve that goal, we have a very tight deadline on the day before that play happens. It's called a pre-shoot. We shoot about a third to a half of the script, and we have a very tight deadline to get all of that footage into the Avid, get it grouped, sunk. We have multiple cameras, multiple streams of audio, and my assistant editor, Brian Lacaze, he does that very quickly and very well with the use of the Avid, and then he has to essentially, line it up with script sync. And then I have a very short time period to turn around all of those cuts so that they can be played back the next day in front of the live studio audience. I don't think that we could do that with anything else. The Avid is just like the number one software for that. Well, I think that knowing Media Composer is my career. I don't think that I could be where I'm at or have the success or work on the caliber of shows that I work on without knowing Media Composer. I was very fortunate to learn it in college, a very early version, and it is definitely, I don't think that there's been many shows I've worked on that haven't used it in my career. Yeah, I would say it's the number one tool to craft television and movies. I would tell somebody who's looking to get into a career in editing that you have to start learning how to tell stories. That's the most important thing. Understand how a story works. You have to know the best editing software out there. Learning Media Composer is probably one of the most important things you can do. Getting a great mentor. I think mentors are the best way to learn. Sitting in there, learning how to tell stories with somebody who's been doing it for a long time is priceless. Put your work out there, put it online, tell everybody you know you want to do this, and eventually with hard work and dedication, you'll find it.